What is up, everyone? Welcome to Marvelous Movie Mondays, and we have a spit take right off the bat from Kelsey, who was, I guess, not expecting me to talk, and I caught her off guard.
No, I really almost my hot apple cider I'm enjoying really almost just went down the wrong pipe.
That's why I'm enjoying a nice water, because
I have water too. I'm fully prepared. It was just a bigger gulp than I was anticipating.
hydration is important, kids. Make sure to hydrate. Always hydrate.
Drink water if you respect women.
Right,
Which I just found out from watching Superbad the other day. That's a Superbad reference.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that was just something that our friend group said in high school. No, that is totally Michael Cera's character says that. That's something bad.
A, I do not remember any of that in high school, and B, I've never seen Superbad, so all that went over my head. But, it's true. Drink, we respect women.
Jill, I expect more from you. You're the movie guy. You've got to see an iconic classic, Seth Rogen's Superbad.
A lot of people get on my case when I haven't seen this or haven't seen that, but I'm like, there are so many movies. If I had taken the time to watch every single movie, I'd need to live to like 700, which I plan to, but let's dive in, shall we? So I'm Dylan. I'm one of your hosts.
We didn't even introduce ourselves right off the bat.
It's okay. I mean, if they're reading the title, they know our names, but do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Kelsey. I'm also one of your hosts.
Great. We are your hostests with the mostests. I don't know if that's... I don't know if that's from Superbad.
That implies that we're both females, but hey, Jill, no judgment here.
No judgment. Well, we don't even know if any of these humans in this show are even real. I mean, Vision's not a human, but all these people, for all we know, in this episode, could very well just be part of some manufactured something. We will get into all of it because today we are recapping WandaVision episode 3. So last episode we recapped the first two WandaVision episodes. You can watch it on Disney Plus now. If you're too old to know what Disney Plus or streaming services are, continue watching your HBO and your cable at home. Enjoy it. But streaming services are the big hot thing right now, and WandaVision's the only weekly television, besides from The Bachelor, that has fit my normal rotation the past few weeks. Now that all these shows are in halt because of COVID, they are not allowed to produce as much television all at once, but we still have WandaVision every week to look forward to, which is very nice. We've been getting some normalcy back into TV watching and MCU, which is cool.
So did you want to start with some exciting news we've acquired over the week?
Yes, to ease into each episode, WandaVision is the subject of this episode, but, it's only one episode we're covering today, not two like last week, so we have a little extra time, so we figured let's start with our MCU or Marvel headlines of the week. So what we're going to do is we're each going to bring a headline every week, and we'll talk about something in the Marvel-verse that's new or noteworthy. And we're not going to talk about, like, movie delays because of COVID, because we've been seeing that with every movie. Morbius and the James Bond movie, they're all getting pushed. But let's talk about some fun news in the Marvel Universe. So, Kelsey, why don't you take it away first and tell us what your Marvel headline of the week is?
Sure. So we learned over the week that Matt Damon is down in Australia, down in the down under, if you will, because he has just been confirmed as one of the cast members of Thor: Love and Thunder. So that's exciting. The last time we saw Matt Damon was he made a cameo as the actor playing Loki in the play about Loki and Thor in Thor Ragnarok. So I'm super intrigued as to what he's been doing. I did some Googling and some researching with this one, but I didn't find anything. Marvel's very, very secretive. Everything is very confidential there. So I don't imagine we'll be finding out any details about his character until we get closer to 2022, which feels like a lifetime away, but that's when we're getting Thor Love and Thunder.
2021 snuck up on us fast, so who knows?
But did it though? 2020 felt like it lasted 7 to 9 years, in my opinion.
Let me rephrase. 2021 has already been flying. It's already 23 days into the year, and I feel like we've been in 2021 for a week. So things are looking up, which is good. So do we think he will be playing like an actor who plays Loki in these productions? Or do we think he's a totally new character?
Well, my first thought was, even though he was an actor playing Loki, he was still an Asgardian, as we could assume that he was still a person that lived there in Asgard as an actor who takes place in these community productions of Thor and Loki's story. So maybe it just goes more in depth into how that guy ended up being the actor playing Loki. Or maybe he's just an entirely new person, and Taika Waititi is just like, yeah, get Matt Damon in here. So,
yeah, right. I mean, Matt Damon has made a cameo in so many movies. He was in Interstellar, and no one knew he was coming in Interstellar. He was in, I think, Euro Trip. He makes cameos everywhere. Kevin Smith movies too. So we will hopefully see what Matt Damon has to do with Thor: Love and Thunder, or maybe he's just enjoying some Outback Steakhouse and hanging out with his buddy Chris Hemsworth on a shooting break. Maybe he's not even in the movie at all. But that's our headline from Kelsey. My headline has to do with the shirt I'm wearing. Spider-Man 3 is coming in December. And here's the deal. A movie's coming out in 12 months and we still don't have a title. So there's going to be lots of title speculation, but we did get a little bit of news. And that is that Spider-Man 3 will take place on Christmas. The movie comes out a little earlier, but the actual movie is set around Christmas. So that had me thinking, let's experiment and see what we think the name of Spider-Man 3 might be. Because the first one was Homecoming. Second one was Far From Home. So I'm thinking maybe Home for the Holidays or Home Alone Lost in New York.
Okay. Oh my God.
We're going to have Tom Holland.
Hopefully our past president doesn't make a appearance in Spider-Man 3, or else I will riot. That is the one thing that would make me turn my back on the MCU, let me tell you.
What's going to happen is Tom Holland's going to stroll into the hotel, and he's going to turn around, and there's going to be Macaulay Culkin, and he's going to ask Macaulay Culkin which way to the lobby, and Macaulay Culkin's going to point that way, and then Tom's just going to spider his way off and fling off with his web. So that's the news. What are your ideas for a possible Spider-Man 3 title?
I've heard a lot of people say Homesick, perhaps. Okay. But, I love the holiday theme. I didn't know that it was going to be centered around Christmas. That's really, really interesting. That's the headline. Now taking on this holiday film-esque. Do any other films take place around a major holiday like that?
I mean, you have Polar Express and the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Okay, I'm obviously talking about movies specifically in the MCU.
Oh.
I was just like, wow, do Christmas movies exist?
I mean, Iron Man 3 has some Christmas scenes, I think. There's a Christmas party. I have to go back and see, but I think Iron Man 3, because it's Shane Black, and Shane Black is famous for putting Christmas in a lot of his movies. So I think Iron Man 3 has some Christmas stuff, but it's not a blatant, this is a Christmas movie. And it could be Batman Returns takes place around Christmas, and there's a few references to it, but it's not like Die Hard, where a lot of the Christmas is so influential in the action and the set pieces and the actual scenario.
So here's my next question, Dill. The Dill Pickle Movie Network.
Oh boy.
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Absolutely. Yes. This is another conversation for another time, but absolutely a Christmas movie. I mean, the final moment ends with Let It Snow. It just starts playing as they ride off into the sunset. Have you seen Die Hard?
No.
Okay, then we'll have this conversation when you see Die Hard. You know what? Maybe in December when Spider-Man 3 comes out, we will do a joint episode and also talk about Die Hard, even though it's not MCU. So let's dive into WandaVision, because that's what everyone came here to see. They're not paying for this, but I was about to say, that's what everyone bought tickets for, even though you're not buying tickets, you're just downloading it, hopefully giving us a great review. If you're listening to this on a podcast app, hopefully you give it a thumbs up or subscribe or do anything like that. If you're on YouTube, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, do all of that. But we'll do that at the end, too. We'll promote that a little bit more, but if you're joining us here, this is what you came for. WandaVision, Episode 3. Kelsey, let's talk about it.
Okay, well, the first thing I noticed right off the bat was, am I crazy, or did they just start titling the episodes? Am I dumb?
Is the title in the episode itself, or it was just in the Disney Plus menu?
No, the Disney Plus menu. I'm pretty sure I would have written down if episodes 1 and 2 had titles. I'm pretty sure before
episode 3
came out, it was just episode 1, episode 2. But now they have titles, and the title of our episode 3 is Now in Color.
And that is what the first thing we have to talk about is that this is now the next progression of the sitcom, and it's now fully color. And I believe this is the 70s. We're in the 70s now in terms of the style. And we have the intro. We will do a brief recap of just what the episode is in just a sec, but just for the overall episode title and the theme, I mean, we're getting a lot of 70s, and I got a lot of Brady Bunch. Brady Bunch was the big thing sticking out to me.
Brady Bunch and Mandy Tyler Moore Show were the two comparisons I saw through research.
The Mary Tyler Moore Show?
What did I say?
I think you said Mandy, but I might be wrong.
Okay, well, to be fair, Mandy Moore is a person.
That's right. Mandy Moore is a person, and she's great in This Is Us, and I want This Is Us to come back because I thought there was going to be a new episode this week. There was not. I wish I could do a This Is Us podcast, but not enough people watch it to listen. But let's talk just briefly about the episode. So this episode, Kelsey.
Yes. So what happens is Wanda has the twins, Billy and Tommy. And at the end, a character gets voted off the island.
The tribe has spoken for Geraldine. So basically, that's pretty much what happens in the episode. Wanda's pregnant. She's pregnant. She gives birth, and Geraldine is voted off the island. So, I mean, that's it. That's all it is in a nutshell. I mean, there's a lot of more complexity, which we will definitely dive into. But I mean, on just a broad surface, I mean, that's it. That's what we got from this episode. And I think it's interesting, this episode in particular, just totally, I think this really broke the mold of the episodes and what they've been. We've been kind of getting little teases for each one, but now we're fully, I think that final pan out with the aspect ratio changing to the widescreen, I think that's it. I think we're now out of the sitcom territory. I think we're totally done. I know, Kelsey, you predicted last week that it's going to go on a little further with the sitcomness. But I really think that's it for the actual sitcom nature of it. At least that's what I think. I mean, maybe they're going to keep going with the sitcom stuff. I think it was a really cool way to introduce this idea and this concept, but I really think, I mean, we have 6 episodes left, and if they're only 20 minutes each, that's 2 hours left of everything that's going to happen. So this isn't, I think we're done with the exposition, and now we're really going to dive in to what's happening in the future.
Yeah, it really feels like the foot is all the way on the gas now. There's no going back here. I mean, just going back, thinking back to when I watched the first 2 trailers, like our teaser trailer and then the full trailer, there's still more, I feel like more costumes, more eras, more aesthetics that I'm remembering, which makes me think that we might still be getting small snippets of sitcom-iness. Because it looks like at some point in the trailer they have a Halloween episode, which is
right, because the devil horns or whatever. Yeah,
I think Wanda's a cat, but what I remember more specifically from that is that Agnes is a witch, which people think is like hinting at her character from the comics, Agatha Harkness, who is a witch. So just like things like that, but we'll get to the end of the episode when we get there. But right off that.
And I have tons of Easter eggs that we'll get into, including the Agatha thing, because I did look more into that. That was something that just didn't cross my mind really the last time we talked. But now I'm like, okay, I can obviously see where this is going, and I have some theories. I have some ideas. I hope you do too.
Yeah, I mean, I have more questions rather than theories.
Okay.
That's kind of my vibe, but
that's fair.
You give me some good stuff here. But Bill, did you notice anything in the opening credits? Did anything strike you?
Did anything strike me? Sure they did. So last time we saw WandaVision, it ended on the beehives. And sure enough, this first opening title sequence, if you notice, instead of Brady Bunch squares, you know how they normally have the little squares where they're all waving at each other, they have hexagons, which look like little honeycombs.
So you think it's a callback to the Beehive Man who called out the viewer?
It could just be an aesthetic. It doesn't have to be any meaning, but it's really interesting to see that, the hexagon was the choice of shape, which is a very, your mind doesn't go to hexagon right away.
Wait, pause. I'm sorry. Oh, I have an announcement. I know Captain America's blood type.
Oh, did we say last week you were going to find that out?
No. We texted over separately because once I know everyone watching and listening is probably like, where the heck is this coming from? So Dylan and I were texting about, kind of like our stats so far with the podcast, and Dylan had informed me that the majority, actually 100%, not the majority, 100% of our listeners on Spotify are a male audience. And this made me nervous as a female in the fandom because I can just see it now, all these angry guys saying, what does this dumb girl know anyway? I bet she can't even name Captain America's blood type.
But
so
you have it.
I looked into it.
Wow.
And it took me to a Reddit conversation page. I don't know.
The second most reliable source after Wikipedia, if you ask me.
Reddit. I'm not sure what the terminology is for Reddit, but basically someone asked the reason why people even know Steve Rogers / Captain America's blood type is because someone asked, can Captain America donate blood and give someone else the serum that he got, the super serum? So first of all, his blood type O. He's a universal donor, baby.
Oh, so he can universally donate super serum, right?
So actually, someone gave this lengthy explanation. I don't know who this person is or where their medical knowledge came from, but basically what they said is that you wouldn't necessarily get the serum from Captain America. If anything, you just get like really good like cardiovascular health. Okay. Because the super serum, they are called PBMCs. And I even asked my doctor friend, Jen, who's currently training in school to be a PA. I talked to her about this. I was like, I have to ask you a really weird question. And the only thing that I could compare it to is if someone was on steroids and they donated blood, would the steroids affect the person they gave blood to? And she was basically like, well, yes, but no. So basically these PBMCs, the immune cells that make him, super, would get attacked by your immune system. So your immune system would attack them and kill them off. So long story short, no, you wouldn't get superpowers if you got Captain America's blood.
Well, shucks.
But the worst case scenario is that because they are super serum PBMCs, don't ask me what that stands for. I don't know. And neither did Jen, so I don't feel that bad about not knowing. They could attack your immune system and kill you. So in the long run, you don't actually really want blood from Captain America, despite him being a universal donor. Well, that was my fun fact for the day. Maybe every week I'll have a little fun fact like that, so people don't think that I don't check up on my facts.
All right, so not only are you numbers girl now, which we hailed you last week as the numbers girl, but you are also fun fact girl. So you will be giving us fun facts that aren't even Easter eggs related to the episodes.
No, not at all.
So, do you want to go just scene by scene and talk about what we think of the scenes and if we picked up anything? We can save Easter eggs, like niche Easter eggs, to the end, but we can just talk generally about what's going on. All right, so intro. Did you notice anything in the intro that you found like interesting?
Well, I don't know if this is an Easter egg necessarily, but in the opening credits, they walk out of a store called Wentworth's, which might be a nod to Deirdre Wentworth, aka Miss Marvel. And we know that we're getting a Miss Marvel television show, so it could either just be a nod to her, or hey, she might have something to do with all this madness. We don't know. But that's the thing that I caught on to in the opening credits.
Yeah, I think a lot of the name drops are just like, we need to come up with a name for something, so let's take one of our other properties' names. Like, that was kind of like just the doctor's name being Stan. I was like, and maybe that's an homage to Stan Lee. I don't think it necessarily has to like mean anything coming, unless it's a very like specific like Hydra name drop or something like that. But that was very interesting. I didn't even pick up on that. I was not even looking at all that. I was just enjoying the aesthetic of the 70s intro. I was like, this is so campy and cheesy and fun.
Yeah.
I think that's the one thing I'm loving about WandaVision is just how much fun they're having with all the sitcomness. I mean, it is dark. I mean, we did mention how this is going to be leading into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, directed by Sam Raimi, who last week I was talking about how he directed the Spider-Man films, but he's also just a horror director first and foremost. He did the Evil Dead films. He is a horror director first. So we know this is going in a route where it could end up being a very horror or thriller-like ending to this series, and Doctor Strange is also is suspected to be a horror film. So Marvel's first horror film. So I do think it's fun to see them play into the fun of it while we still have the fun aspects, because I don't know 2 or 3 episodes from now if we're going to be able to have all those fun, like cheeky little moments. I really don't think we're going to have those little one-liner jokes. I don't think Paul Bettany is going to be as like, you know,
Yeah, totally.
caricature-y, but I think it works for this show, and I think it's very refreshing to see just within the universe itself, as we talked about last week. So after this intro, we jump right to the doctor. He's checking out Wanda. Doctor says she's 4 months into her pregnancy, which we know is only a few hours, like 12 hours, and he compares pregnancy to fruit. And I think this is just another just fun way to make some fun comedy with a sitcom, outline and structure they have going on.
Oh, do you, Jill? Because I have a fruit theory.
Oh, you think there's a theory with the fruit?
Yeah. Oh,
boy.
A fruit theory, and we'll get to the fruit theory. I'll tell you. Scene 3. Scene 3.
Okay.
I'll deep dive into my fruit theory.
So where does scene 1 end? Is that when Vision goes outside with Herb trimming the concrete with his hedge trimmer? Is that scene 2, or is that still in this first scene?
That to me is still scene 1. For me, scene 2 started with once we transitioned into them being in the nursery. That's
okay.
There.
So let's just talk about that moment where Vision's outside. He's walking the doctor out. He's telling the doctor to keep it a secret because obviously the rest of the town, if they see her, they'll be like, "Wait, we just saw you at the magic show yesterday, in that like little like leotard outfit." And unitard. I was like, where am I getting that? But wearing that leotard, and I'm like, wait, like the whole town is gonna know what's up. But here's the thing, I think the town already knows what's up, right? Or at least some members of the town do, which we'll get to toward the end with Herb and Agnes's conversation. But I do think Herb, that moment is very weird because it's almost like in Get Out when Lakeith Stanfield's character comes in dressed all differently, and it's not until that camera flashes where he kind of snaps out of it. I think Herb looked like he was like just in his own world, like he was a passenger in someone else's body, and he was just glazed over. Didn't really seem like the Herb we've known, or it is the Herb we know, and he's just giving some weird vibes.
No, yeah, totally a moment that I made a mental note of. It reminded me a lot of the glass breaking with Dottie, right, and all that. So just I feel like it really makes you question whether or not these people are kind of put here against their own will and they're kind of just rolling along with it and they don't know, or if they're all here very, very well to serve a purpose. And sometimes, wires get crossed and simulations glitch.
Right. Well, one thing I noticed with the Herb scene is if you look behind Herb, that is a painted backdrop. His house and the outside, it's painted. I wasn't sure if that was to match the whole like 70s sitcom aesthetic, because in the sitcoms they didn't have the budgets or resources to film on an actual wide street, so they would use studios and they would use backdrops and painted walls. Is that just an homage, you think, to the sitcom nature, or do you think that this is because this is a simulation and this is a manufactured thing by Agnes or someone else, and Herb knows it, and Herb doesn't even have a home to go inside to, and he's very well aware that this is a backdrop and that he is an actor within the simulation? Or do you think it's just that's how sitcoms were made back then, so they're just trying to show a visual homage? What do you think?
Well, I don't want to jump to our last moments in the show here, but we do see that there's some pretty advanced technology. Kind of, I wrote down, almost like holographic. What did I say? Some holographic technology in the distance that Geraldine is thrown out of. So why are they going to great depths of like having this, it's kind of hologram basically being showcased, and they're not, and now they have like a paper set that could be easily mistaken, and perceived as fake to a regular person. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that it's more of like a just an homage to how TV shows were made back in the 70s. I don't think I don't know. It could be.
We don't know.
No, no.
So let's move on to the next scene in the nursery. So we see that the baby starts kicking, which means Wanda's much further along than 4 months. She's at like 6 months. And then they talk about, what they want to name their kids. And I guess this goes back to what we were saying last week with is Vision British? Is he European? And even if he's not, from Britain because he's a robot, he's an AI, but I think it's interesting to note that he wanted to name his kid after Shakespeare, which is a more British name. Wanda wants to name the kid Tommy because it's a more American name. Neither one wants to go with William or Thomas because they want to be edgy. They want to jump right to the nicknames. They're naming their kids Tommy and Billy, not William and Thomas. Yeah, I just thought this was, again, like fun banter that just allows the two actors to have fun with the comedy. I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah,
I
we're
think it's a
seeing.
direct nudge, nudge, wink, wink at kind of like what's going on here.
Oh,
So
100%. I
I
think they're
love
definitely
that they're quoting Willie Shakes.
I think they're definitely suggesting that there are people here who are not who they say they are and who are not necessarily oblivious to what is going on with the
Mhm.
two of them and with everything else going on in the operation. So is this where she has a contraction, or does she have a contraction later? Because I wrote down Wanda starts to have contraction. I think they go downstairs again, right back into the kitchen.
Now, yes, the contractions start in the kitchen, which is where Wanda is cutting up a pineapple. And this is when I'd like to bring in my fruit theory.
Okay, take it
So,
away.
I realized that throughout the episode, fruit is kind of like a big motif, and I don't think it's a mistake which kinds of fruit we're seeing and when. So I went back and I watched the first scene because I wanted to know the order that the doctor said when he was like, "Oh, this is how we'd like to explain it to women since they're so small-minded and dumb." Uh, he says that at 4 months it's a pear, at 5 months a papaya, 6 months grapefruit, 7 months pineapple, and 8 months a honeydew. And I think that throughout the episode, the way that they've kind of allowed us to realize that Wanda's growing pretty much by the hour here is by associating how big she is with the fruit that she's interacting with. So in scene one, Vision leaves to walk the doctor out. He comes back and he goes, "Oh my goodness, have you gotten bigger?" Implying that she's already 5 months. And what does he do? He rushes over to catch the papaya and he makes a pun about it. Now, in scene three, she starts having contractions, and Vision says contractions don't start until 6 months. And what is she doing? Cutting up a pineapple. I rest my case.
There
Now,
you go.
in the nursery scene, she is eating some kind of fruit. I couldn't tell if it was papaya or grapefruit. So I feel like in the nursery scene, she was in this transition between growing from a papaya to a pineapple.
Maybe it's a pineapple. Maybe it's like in Zoe 101 when Quinn makes the banapple, she combines a banana and an apple. I think we're getting like a pineapple papaya mix, and that's
Mm,
like the transitional fruit. So Wanda's eating the pineapple, and
pineapple
I'm just gonna
during
stick with that.
during the scene too, and then boom, she's having contractions. She's cutting up a pineapple, which is I think indicates that she is now a 7 months. I don't think that these fruits were put here by accident. I think that they were for a quick gal like me to pick up. So
Gotcha. So it's
thank
just
you.
basically showing it's showing a passing of time, basically.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. I mean,
In a very
I could have been the very simple way to put it, but I wanted
they,
to
they
have some
always
drama.
well, this is a podcast, so they need to listen, and talking it out is very helpful for our audio listeners to get what you're trying to say. I think that's a great idea to make that visual cue because show don't tell is what they always say with screenwriters. The best movies are show don't tell. The best shows show don't tell. And this is a great way to be like, instead of you're 7 months. Oh, now I feel like I'm 8 months. Oh, I think I feel 9 months. Like, no, they're not going to say
Yeah.
that because no one could just say I'm 9 months when they're going speed of light pregnancy. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting choice. So we're in the kitchen. Her
Mhm.
her contractions are happening, and then we have this funny cutaway where Dottie comes in to ask Phil if her earrings look fat, which is weird. Do my earrings make me look fat? I mean, like, what did the earrings? Is that a thing? Like, do earrings make people look less? Or
it's just one of those like very like random weird questions that women like to pose onto their husbands. I think that it was more for comedic effect than it was meant to mean anything else.
Right.
I mean, a common question that goes with "Do these blank make me look fat?" is usually "Do these pants or does this dress?"
Right. That's why I'm confused with the earrings thing, but I guess that's just Dottie and how she wants to, judge herself is by the way her earrings make her look.
Right.
And then the lights go out because of Wanda's contractions, and her husband Phil just says, "Thank God." It's a funny little gag. I don't think it really was meant to show anything more than that. Just comedic, a little bit. And then Vision. This is when Vision sits down on the couch and he says, "Wanda, something's wrong." And I'll admit, when this moment happens in the show, I rewinded because I was like, "Wait, my thing skipped. My controller must have skipped." And I went back and I watched it again. I'm like, "Wait, I think Disney Plus made a mistake." No, the camera literally just cuts and it just goes back. I mean, this is kind of like what Wanda did with the Beekeeper when she's like, "Oh no, scratch that, reverse it. Let's rewind." But now we see an immediate just cut and the scene just keeps going from 5 seconds back. It's almost like when you're editing on iMovie and you screw it up and you accidentally like cut it and where you're not supposed to, and then it's just like, well, I guess I'm publishing it. So
do you think that was Wanda's doing, or do you think that some other third party stepped in to make that edit? Because we did see in episode 2 that she physically rewinded it and said, "No, I don't want this to happen right now." Whereas with that moment, it was just boom, something else.
Well, in the first episode, we were led to believe it's Wanda, so I would like to believe it's Wanda this time too. But it could very well just be someone who's in charge of this simulation. When Wanda even said in the first episode, "No, this isn't good. We got to go back," or whatever she says, someone could have pressed the rewind button there. It might not have been Wanda. And same thing here. Someone else might have just been like, "Nope, snip, iMovie, cut." I don't know. I don't know.
That editor should be fired.
Well, I mean, it served a purpose because it obviously intrigued us, and I mean, it had a purpose. So I don't think the editor should. I think it was a very purposeful choice. Obviously, the editor didn't screw it up, but from a first-time viewer, I was like, "Wait, did something happen? Did my Xbox glitch out?" Because I was watching it through Xbox on Disney Plus. I was like, "Did it glitch out?" Like, I really was just so puzzled, and I kind of love that because it's a very unique, odd choice that like. These Marvel movies have so much money put into them that like everything is so seamless that like when you have a moment like that, it really just alerts. It's a way to alert the audience and be like, "Yo, here's what just happened," and like we're gonna reel you in.
Yeah.
So and then her water breaks, which is literal rain in the house.
Oh, that was so cute. I love how they did that.
Yes. And then it cuts to the next commercial, right? Is that the commercial?
Yes.
All right. So tell us about the commercial, Kels.
So the commercial starts us off with a very stressed out mother who's trying to balance having kids, making dinner, having a dog, all this stuff. Boom, it cuts to her in a bathtub, seemingly soaking it up, if you will. And it is a commercial for a soap called Hydra Soap. And their tagline is "Find the Goddess Within." Did you look into this soap, or are we going to talk about the soap and the Easter eggs, or?
I mean, I think it's a big enough deal being so prominent. Like, the ad is so prominent. It's not like a passing. It's not like the grocery store name where it just kind of passes you by. And if you didn't see it, it doesn't matter. Like, I think this very much matters. I think all these ads mean something. I know there are theories that these could be her parents because we've never seen her parents. These could be her parents in the ad.
Oh, the two actors who are doing the commercials.
Yeah, because we're very well aware that her parents have died when she was younger. And so it could be something like that. The goddess within, I was thinking, could that mean that Wanda is this godlike person within something bigger? Or does it mean that, the goddess is within, like, her, that she has to unleash the goddess? Is the goddess the kid, but then the kids are boys? I really don't know what to make of this. Tell me what your idea of this is, because I'm as puzzled as I've ever been.
Well, I feel like the goddess line might just be, so here's what I'll say. I looked into the soap itself, And
Okay.
what I found was that Hydra soap was actually a soap used, or it was at least a plot line used in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show. And,
Okay.
and was actually a mind control soap that they would use to create false memories to make whoever was using the soap believe that they were in a magical made up world.
Well,
So
there you go.
so there we go. I feel like just and I feel and at some point the narrator says something along the lines of escape to a world all your own, which I feel like is a nod to literally what this soap did to people when they used it. So I feel like find the goddess within might just be saying something like, oh, like because once you use our soap and you're, caught up in our trance, you can, basically make yourself out to be whoever you want because you're in this false narrative.
Yeah, I think you know what's interesting is Jim Carrey is my favorite actor, and he has made two drama movies that I'm a big fan of. One of them is The Truman Show, and one of them is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And
Mm-hmm.
what's interesting is I think this is almost like a whoever made this show, whoever thought of all these little ins and outs and the whole concept, they must have maybe they were not inspired, but I like to believe that they might have been inspired by these two movies because you have the whole aspect if you're talking about the memory erasing, Eternal Sunshine is about a man who literally has his memory wiped to get rid of the memories of his ex-girlfriend to get over his love. And you know, it's very clear that Wanda's memories are slightly coming back to her, I think. I think things are starting to click and come back to her, but I think there has to be some aspect of her memory either being wiped or her. Because she has not addressed anything that happened in Endgame, if this does take place after Endgame, and I just feel like there's some aspect of her memory not being quite what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Truman Show aspect, which I did text you earlier today. I said, have you seen the Truman Show? And you're like, yeah. I was like, great, because we're going to talk about it. Is this whole idea of making a fake reality around one person. In the Truman Show, Jim Carrey plays a man who grew up in a bubble that has been completely broadcasted to so many people around the world, and everyone he associates himself with are actors. And they literally make him afraid of water so he can't escape because the only way out of this area is to get on a boat and sail away, but they instill a fear of water in him at such a young age that he's not able to escape. And I feel like it's one of those scenarios where we might have seen Wanda's memory get erased and she might be stuck in this place where everyone else knows what's going on except for her,
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I even have questions on whether or not Vision is even Vision. I really think it's quite interesting that you brought up the whole Hydra soap mind erase thing because those are two of my favorite movies. A, because I think Jim Carrey's a great versatile actor and I think his dramatic work is underrated.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone thinks of him as this great comedian, but I love his dramatic work. And two, just because those movies have such interesting concepts that you don't really think of, and when you see, you're like, how did I not think of this? This is a brilliant concept. So I think it was just interesting that I think two of these concepts of two of my favorite movies are kind of somewhat on the surface of this episode in this show. So that's my long tangent about Jim Carrey. Watch those two movies.
Love it.
We'll keep going with the scene breakdown. So what happens after this ad? We'll talk about our theories with the whole Truman Show stuff later. Obviously, when we get to the Agnes scene, but let's keep going with
So
Geraldine's
now
entrance.
Vision has run off to find the doctor. Wanda is left alone in the house, and we open with her hearing some sort of commotion or some scratching noise
Yes,
coming from the nursery.
the stork.
Is it the stork? I wrote that down. I said the stork question mark
I'd assume.
because
I mean, I think she just is one of her magical like contractions just like sent something out her fingers and made the thing on the wall come alive. I
okay.
think it's as simple as that because I mean obviously it's the stork from the mural.
Right.
I thought that was hilarious. I mean I just a stork like of all things it's just a random thing that just happens to be walking around her apartment and I love it, or her
Well,
house.
I think that it's actually purposeful because I think that's, like I was saying with the fruit earlier, is like now the stork's here. So babies are coming, babies are on
Oh
their way.
yes.
Yeah. So I think that's the reason why the stork came to
Right.
life, is because
See,
it's kind of saying like, hey, get ready to start pushing.
right. Everything has a purpose, and you just cracked that one open. So there you go. So then
Number
Geraldine
girl is
stops
on the
by.
case.
So Number Girl has now just gone into Number Girl, Fun Fact Girl, and now professional pregnancy fruit analyst.
Yes.
Um, So we see Geraldine stop by, and this is when Wanda grabs her one coat. And I thought of it's not an Easter egg, but a little detail I noticed with the coats is every time she's giving a contraction, she utters something out. So the first thing she says is "sink." She gives a contraction while she's saying the word "sink," and it almost sounds like she's singing the word "sing." And then of course she gets a raincoat, which made me think "singing in the rain." I was like,
oh my gosh, of course.
could sinking in the rain. I don't know. And then she goes, ow. And when she goes, ow, it comes into a fur coat. I'm like, ow, wolf. It's like a noise a wolf would make. I don't think there's any purpose behind these coats, but I was just like, wow, sink sounds like singing in the rain, raincoat. And then the ow sounded like a wolf, like an ow. And then she's wearing this wolf coat. I just thought it was a fun little detail. I was like, oh, that's fun.
I love that coat theory. Love a coat theory, Dill.
You know, so you're the fruit girl, I'm the coat guy.
Perfect.
Tip me on your way out the restaurant. I'm the coat guy. I will hang up your coats and I will collect tips.
So now we have Geraldine come in. Now, did you notice the necklace before or after Wanda pointed it out to us?
I noticed her whole outfit right away because obviously now it's Marvel, so we got to look at every single accessory, every single outfit ever. I mean, everyone's wearing a necklace in this episode. We'll get to Agnes later, but yeah. So it looked like she was wearing what, like whales on her dress?
I think her pants were fish.
Fish. Okay, I just thought whales because I like whales. So yeah, so she's wearing a sword necklace. You know, this is the sword emblem, and we kind of, I mean, if you knew the spoilers, you know, she is someone important. I will not spoil it yet because we still don't know, and IMDb knows, but some other people don't know, and I don't want to spoil that because it's spoiled for myself. But she's someone important, and by the likes of what Agnes is saying, she doesn't necessarily belong there either.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right. So then, well, first, before we have the Agnes and Herb interaction, I would just like to point out that when the stork is, bebopping around the house, she hears it and she asks, "What was that? Did you hear that?" And I feel like for me, Geraldine says this. For me, I feel like this is completely Geraldine out of character. Like, I feel like whatever facade and persona she had before, she immediately jumps up and she loses it. It's what was that? Did you hear that? It sounded like a chattering sound. And I feel like, hey, maybe she is just talking about the stork, but maybe she literally hears people talking either inside her ear, maybe she has an earpiece, or inside her head somewhere somehow.
Well, it would make sense. It would make sense if this is a true. Sorry, go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
Oh, me? No. I'll go. Do you want me to go?
Go ahead.
So it was just such an abrupt moment for me that I couldn't not point it out. I mean, she jumps up from the couch. She's no longer smiling. She was just in the middle of telling this over the top story about a situation she had at work. And then all of a sudden it was serious. And I was like, whoa, it took me back for a second. So I was just wondering if you noticed that, or if you just think that, hey, she's talking about the stork.
Well, I mean, if we're going along this Truman Show theory where everyone's like an actor, or in on the whole simulation, I think it's safe to say she might have her concerns because I think she's working for someone else. I don't think she's working for whoever's in charge of the simulation because, we'll get to that later with Agnes's conversation. I keep bringing it up, but I think we have to bring it up now. I don't think Geraldine is there on other people's request. I think she found her way in somewhere because I think she's trying to save Wanda in a sense. I think she has these rules she has to follow to try to fit into the rest of the community so she can get her end goal of trying to either save Wanda or bring Wanda's memory back or do something because she's the one who, we're not going to jump ahead too far, but the whole twin thing, when she brings up Pietro, I think that's all just very much her trying to get to Wanda without being caught. And I think she has this whole fear that everyone's watching her. So the fact that she questions the commotion in the other room could be her being like, oh shoot, are they watching? Because I need to help you, Wanda, but now they're watching, so now I gotta pretend I'm still in my actor-y, mask. So there's a lot to talk about. And we'll have theories on Geraldine when we're done recapping. We'll talk about Geraldine at the end. But the doctor, Vision goes to the doctor, puts him on his back and runs away. His doctor's like, yo, what happened? And then Wanda starts giving her birth. And first baby's born. Then Vision and the doctor arrive. And Vision names it Tommy. He's like, oh, okay, fine, we'll go with your name. He didn't even have to think about it. And then another baby comes right away after that, and that's Billy. Mm-hmm. So we got the two names, nicknames, Tommy and Billy, not Thomas and William. Did I cut out?
No.
Oh. I did on my laptop, but you heard me, so that's good. And then the doctor says, when, I guess, Vision's asking if he's going back on his vacation, the doctor says something along the lines of, small towns, so hard to escape. Again, it's so on the nose, but it's there for a reason. It's there to tell you, listen, this is something manufactured, something not real. This is a world that you can't escape. So what do you think about that?
I think it's interesting because I just put together, right now, when we see him on his way to his trip, his car has gone out. It's stalling or it's not working. The battery's dead. Something is wrong with it. So even if that day Wanda wasn't supposed to have her babies, even if we saw the doctor somewhere later in some later episode or day where she was finally going to give birth, Vision could have been like, oh, so you never ended up going on your trip, and he could have easily just been like, oh, car wasn't working, Right. So I don't think that he actually ever intended on going on the trip, obviously, got caught in the middle of, fidgeting with his car. And now that he doesn't really have an excuse or anything, he kind of didn't have anything else to say other than, well, small towns, hard to get out of here. Right. Anyway, have a good one, So, yeah, I really think that
let's move on to the last two scenes. So the next scene we have is with Agnes and Herb. We've been talking about this all episode because this is the conversation where it really clicked for me that we are in a Truman Show-like scenario. And I think Agnes is in charge. And here's why I think that.
Okay.
Agnes is the one to shut up Herb. Herb almost cracks because here's where I think that Vision is not part of this, is not actually himself. He's dead. I think he's a rebuilt version of himself for Wanda's own satisfaction. Either she created him or they created him for Wanda. But I do think, or Herb is trying to tell Vision, yo, dude, we're part of a simulation because Wanda's here, she's trapped here, we're part of the simulation. But Agnes is like, yo, Herb, shut up, because Vision still, this isn't really Vision, but if he tells Wanda, we're fucked. So sorry, explicit. This podcast is now explicit. Dang.
Right.
We're getting that little E. But yeah, no, I think Herb was about to crack.
Talking about WandaVision right now.
I'm getting heated for Herb. I mean, Herb is talking secretly with Agnes. Vision's questioning what's going on. Agnes has this fake as hell smile on her face, oh, can you leave us alone now so we can talk about what we're gonna do to your crazy world next? So we have this conversation, and then Agnes says that Ralph was complaining about the dark, which when we get into the Easter eggs and the speculation later, I have something to say about Ralph. Okay. I got Ralph theories, but I know we said we wouldn't see him, but I think we will see him. But anyway, we'll get there when we get there because I have a lot to say about that. But we have this conversation. Did it occur to you that we might be in some sort of Truman Show-like scenario?
So can I just say, I was on my seat. I was on my seat, but I was also on the edge of the seat.
Oh, great.
The entire time of this scene, because I'm like, oh my God, Herb's going to tell us. Damn it, Agnes, Herb's not going to tell us because of you. I didn't know if we were going to get any answer, but I thought that I didn't think we were going to get the answer in episode 3, but I thought
get a little breadcrumbs.
Another little breadcrumb. I love my breadcrumbs. And I would just like to point out that these are the things that Agnes says about Geraldine. She's new in town. She has no family, no husband, and no home. But the first thing Geraldine says when she comes into Wanda's house is, my pipes burst. I need to borrow a bucket. Either insinuating that, yes, she does have a home, or that she is very much keeping up a facade and feeding Wanda and Vision more lies about her role in all of this, which I thought was interesting because, well, we'll get there.
We'll get there. We'll get there. There's so much to talk about, and we're already like we're pretty far into the episode, but we have so much to talk about still. But so we'll come back to Agnes in a little bit, but let's just get to this last scene with Geraldine. Because we've kind of established that Agnes is kind of behind this. At least we think she might be, and we have more to dissect with that conversation. But Vision's like, all right, then I'll go back inside. But that's a weird conversation. But before Vision goes inside, Geraldine and Wanda have this talk, and this is the moment of the episode for me because this is really where I was like, oh, we're getting into it.
Yep.
Wanda questions. Well, first, Wanda tells Geraldine. When Geraldine says, oh, twins, Wanda tells Geraldine about Pietro. And this is the first time we've heard her talk about Quicksilver since Ultron.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes on to sing the Sokovian lullaby. Mm-hmm. So if this is true with just Hydra soap or whatever it is, Hydra soak, if her mind is wiped, these memories are starting to come back to her. And I think this is something that Agnes and whoever is in charge of this doesn't want to happen. And Geraldine, by saying that, triggered Wanda, brought her memories back. But now that Geraldine's like, okay, I've gotten through to Wanda, now it's time for me to let Wanda in and tell her that she's in trouble. So let me like try to find some common ground. You know, he was killed by Ultron, right? Like, I'm with you. I know what's going on. Trust me. I know what happened to him. Like, I'm on your side. But then Wanda, supposedly Wanda, maybe someone else, kicks Geraldine out of the simulation. Because she's gone. She's boosted. She's on the real world. She's out in the real world, which is, what is it called? Westview. Welcome to Westview. Westview, I guess, is the town where they're watching this show. So Geraldine is fully now out of the simulation. She's not in the bubble, if there is a bubble. She's not in the bubble. Do you think Wanda kicked her out, or do you think someone up controlling, like Agnes or someone else, kicked her out?
So I actually made a note about this. Thank you so much for asking me, Dale.
Of course.
Geraldine is thrown out, and you can see that she kind of has this red mist about her, which makes me think that it was very much Wanda's powers that, dismissed her from this false reality. So I do think it was Wanda.
But when Wanda tries to get rid of the what's it called, the stork, it doesn't work.
Well, I think that's because also with pregnancy, I feel like that's also just a thing where, she wanted it to disappear so bad, but it's like with pregnancy, it's like, well, regardless of whether or not you are ready, it's happening right now and you have to do it. You have to push. So I think that was just kind of another way of saying the babies are coming. You cannot ignore this type of thing. But I see what you're saying, but I think that with Geraldine that it was very much Wanda's powers, because I think the reason why they've been teasing so much red at us is because they want us to associate red with Wanda. Whoa, red with Wanda. And so that when we saw her, stumble around in the grass, covered in what looks like, her telepathic powers, that we would know. And also, once Vision comes back inside, he says, where did Geraldine go? And Wanda says she had to rush home. A third time now, Geraldine's so-called home has been referenced, and we know from Agnes that she does not have a home. So I feel very strongly that Wanda had something to do with Geraldine's departure, because she just did not want to deal either with the reality that Geraldine wanted to feed her, or that she just didn't want to associate with whatever Geraldine's, what's that word? It's like her agenda, if you will.
I mean, I'm still under the impression that even if Wanda did something, I think there might be someone controlling Wanda's control. So I think Wanda's in control of kicking Geraldine out, but I'm wondering if maybe someone instilled in Wanda some sort of, almost like the Winter Soldier thing, where he's programmed that when something taps into a certain part of Wanda's memory, Wanda immediately goes into survival mode and just kicks her out. I don't know if she was doing that because she literally was like, oh, I'm in danger. She knows about Pietro. Because my first instinct, if she had all these memories and recollection, would be to be like, wait, how do you know this? oh, wait, Pietro, like, let's talk about it. But the fact that she gets rid of her so fast, there was something about it that made me think that Wanda's not completely in control of who she's letting in and out of her life and her scenarios. But that's just me, and I think we'll get more answers.
Sure. I don't know. I'm not completely sold because I think that the last shot that we see of Wanda, her just uh uh leaning over the crib that the new twins are in now, she just so nonchalantly says with almost a grin on her face, "Oh, she had to rush home." It just made it seem a little bit more malicious, like there is something a little bit more behind it, to the point where I'm even at the point where I'm asking, does Wanda just fully know that this is her world and she's living in it and she's in control? Or maybe not fully in control, but she does control aspects of this world.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I am. I think that we might not be, in the beginning we thought that, oh, something is being done to Wanda. This is Wanda being held somewhere against her will. This is all involuntary. Where I think, no, I think Wanda might have something more to do with this than we think.
Interesting.
That's the vibe that I was getting from that last little line and that last little, shot of her just, oh, everything's fine, dear. Like,
and I think that's why the show is so successful, is that you're thinking of it as Wanda's in control of this all, and I'm thinking someone's messing with Wanda's brain and making her do this, almost like someone's pulling the strings on Wanda and she's the puppet.
Oh, okay.
And they're controlling it. Because I don't know, I think Geraldine is a good person, and I mean IMDb may or may not confirm that, or at least in my suspicions, but I think Geraldine had an agenda that she needed to tell Wanda, like, hey, you got to get out of here, and I'm going to be the one to do it. And the only way for me to do it without overtly saying it is to be like, hey, I know about your brother, and I know what happened to him, and you can trust me as someone who knows what's going on to, like, come with me. But then Wanda's like, no, hell, get out, and that could be Wanda, that could be someone else. And I think Geraldine does have a purpose, and I think this is where we're going to see the outside world come in now that Geraldine's out, is their mole, their spy on the inside is now out. And now they have no way to help Wanda, because how do you get back in once you're out? And I think that's going to be kind of where the series goes from here. I think that's kind of where we're building. What do you think?
Sure. So I definitely think that Geraldine had good intentions in what she was doing with Wanda and her bringing up Pietro to begin with. I think she was definitely trying to be like, hey, same team here. But I disagree. I don't think that if anyone brought up Pietro to Wanda, that she'd be so keen to talk about him with anyone. I think that her first instinct would be, no, I'm not. We're closing that off. We're not talking about this. This is like almost as if like, no, this is the reason why I'm here, is to not deal with his death and Vision's death. I'm here for a reason, and it is to, finally be happy, to be safe. And if you keep trying to pull me back into reality, I'm gonna get rid of you.
Interesting. So, like, almost like she's trying to escape her own reality by being in this world. So do you think she's with Agnes, that, like, Agnes is helping her try to keep that reality? Because Agnes is the one who's like, we can't tell Vision anything. Or do you think Agnes has her own different agenda? Because I have an idea about Agnes that I'm going to get into in just a second, if you will let me.
I don't. Of course, still. Just
that wasn't like a threat or anything. That was just me being like when you're ready, I have some ideas. Like keep going. Like, I love where your train of thought is at. But
thank you. Well, I don't know. I think you've convinced me about Agnes. I think that she's definitely kind of like playing with her own cards. I think that she's on her own agenda, whether it be for better or for worse. Right. I think that she's definitely separate from Geraldine's purpose and Wanda's. So
all three of them might have different agendas. So this leads me to the Agnes theory. So we'll go through Easter eggs, but I think the first one I want to hit is Agnes herself. Her necklace, did you see what her necklace was?
So, no, please tell me about it.
Okay. What it looked like was her necklace looked like it had 3 little witches on it. And this goes back to yes, she is Bette Midler. No, so
I knew
it. She put a spell on you. So I think it does have to do with this Agnes or Agatha Harkness that we see in the comics. So here's my theory. And have you heard the name Mephisto?
Oh boy, I've got notes on Mephisto.
Okay, so here's where my theory comes in, because Agnes keeps referring to Ralph. She keeps saying the devil's in the details. Or this might have been in a different episode, but the devil's in the details. That's not the only place he is. Not the only place her devil is. How does she know where the devil is? Because the devil might be your husband. Could her husband be the devil? Could Ralph, this Ralph that we said last week we're not gonna see, could this be Mephisto? Because if I keep going back to my notes, what does Agnes say? She says something about something you had said about the Ralph, something with Ralph in the dark. Like he spends so much time in the dark.
He looks better in the or Ralph is annoyed about the dark, but
Ralph was complaining about the dark.
Better or something.
That's what it was. I just found it in my notes. Yeah, Ralph was complaining about the dark. Why would he be complaining about the dark? Because he's in hell. Because he's the devil, and he is Mephisto. And here's where it goes into some of the comics lore, which, as we said last week, we're not experts on the comics, but I did enough research on the comics that I found some theories that I have made up just from my research of the comics. So, actually, Mephisto absorbs Wanda's children in some way. I don't know what that means. Absorption in Avengers West Coast.
She basically, essentially, she sold her soul to Mephisto to have the children.
Gotcha. So you know about this whole Mephisto.
Yeah. I did a deep dive on Mephisto, baby. I want to look into these twins. This Marvel encyclopedia, it's not just for show. I'm doing research in
so you're doing
here.
You're doing book research. You're like going to library research. Okay, so you're not just pulling up Google. You're diving in.
I have a primary research.
You're getting paper cuts doing your research.
Yeah, I'm going back to the Stone Age here with my research.
So in order to save her children or whatever, she like sells her soul to the devil or whatever, and this like
to have the children.
Oh, okay.
So products that Tommy and Billy are products of Mephisto's like soul, basically. So that's where the reabsorption comes into play.
And this also kind of ties into how her memory is wiped, right? Because I believe in the Avengers West Coast comic, her memory is wiped, and it's easier for her to erase her memory than to try to save the children by removing them from Mephisto in this comic. But they do return as Wiccan and Speed in the comics, which I read up on, which I'm sure you know all from your handy-dandy encyclopedia. You're way more on top of this than I am. Yeah, I think Mephisto might have something to do with this, because we see the kids and we have Agnes with the witches, and then she brings up how Ralph is complaining about being in the dark and the devil's in the details. That's not the only place the devil is. Like, Agnes is somewhat linked to the devil, Mephisto. It just makes sense. And I wish I knew more about the comics to be able to tell you every little ounce of Mephisto's lore, but I'm sure you have some stuff on him too. Do you think we're going to see Mephisto come into play, or do you think Agnes is just like referring to herself, that she's the devil and Ralph is still just this non-existent Charlie Brown teacher off screen, wah, 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 that we're just never going to see?
Well, anybody who's watching can tell by my reaction that you just completely blew my brain apart with that theory. I cannot believe you think Ralph is Mephisto. That is not only hilarious, but also plausible. I could see it.
Yeah, I mean, like you keep talking about Ralph, and I'm like, girl, like, are we gonna see him, or is he just gonna be this running gag? But I'm like, this is not a comedy. Like, it is a comedy to an extent. But the overall WandaVision, where it's going, where we've seen from the choking scene in episode 1, we've seen from the beekeeper and the glass breaking on her hand in episode 2, and like we've seen at the end of this episode with episode 3, this is leaning toward the first horror of Marvel. The first horror, thriller, suspense, whatever you want to call it. I think this is where it's leading, and I think we might see some devil coming.
And where people are really making the connection between, Agatha or Agnes, aka Agatha, to Mephisto and all of this, is that to deal with, Mephisto reabsorbing Billy and Tommy, Wanda, conjures up her old mentor, who is Agatha Harkness, to deal with the death of her, or the loss of her sons, which I think is, parallel to what the purpose of her being there right now, to deal with the death and the loss of Vision.
So maybe Harkness, maybe Agatha Agnes is with Wanda and she's trying to help Wanda, but Geraldine's trying to be like, no, Wanda, we need you because the sword needs you. We need you on our side. And this could all lead to Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange is going to be the hero. Who's the villain of Doctor Strange? It might be Wanda. Wanda might be taking a villain turn. I mean, we see in wrestling, we see people take heel turns. We see people turn to the dark side. Anakin Skywalker is the hero of the prequels.
I'm sorry. Did you just cite like WWE as?
Well, yeah, because usually you pick a persona, you pick like a heel or a face. You know, you either are like this person that people root for, or the people that everyone roots against. You know, like. And sometimes you'll be a hero, and then like later on in your career, you'll become like a villain. You know, like. It could happen. We could see, you know, Bucky. Bucky was a hero, then a villain, then a hero. We've seen characters take long, you know, arcs with their characters. Could Wanda end up being the villain of Phase 4 of the MCU?
Wow. First of all, not a theory I hate, I'll say. Second of all, I did through my research. Yes, thank you. I got there. There is a connection between Mephisto and Doctor Strange, which makes me think that maybe Mephisto might be the Thanos level threat that we haven't seen yet for Phase 4, because in Doctor Strange comic, Mephisto possesses this guy named James Mandarin to lure Strange to hell. So
you mean Trevor Slattery, like the Mandarin?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't think Trevor's making a callback here.
I think Trevor's moved back to England and he's done with the MCU.
I think that he's 100% like in prison, like maximum security prison for like impersonating a terrorist. I could be wrong. I don't know how.
I mean, I don't think we'll see
the law works.
I don't think we'll see the Mandarin again. But yeah.
That's my little tidbit with Doctor Strange. So maybe Wanda's the villain. Maybe Mephisto is the villain that ties Wanda into the multiverse of madness. Maybe. We'll see where this strange
goes. Yeah, I think that's where kind of our speculation segment will probably end, because we just have so many thoughts, and I really think the next episode will make it so clear, because I think the next episode we'll start to see these other characters that are on the outside, because I don't think we're just going to like be like, hey, bye, Geraldine, all right, we won't see you again. Like, we're going to see her again, obviously. So let's dive into some Easter eggs. Do you want to do that?
Yes. First, before we leave theory world, I mean, I guess this might be an Easter egg, but I did want to address the song that plays at the end of the episode, because
Daydream Believer.
I did look into it, because it was the first time where a song kind of played us out. The last 2 episodes were either just like end credits of the sitcom or something else. So I thought that it was, wow, I heard the song and I was like, I need to look into this, because obviously there's a reason why we're hearing this. It's Daydream Believer by the Monkees, for those of you who don't know. And the verse...
Who doesn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Kelsey, this is like... Oh, okay.
How do you, Will? I cannot be the only one who didn't know that song.
I'm an old soul, you could say.
I love throwback 70s, 80s jams just as much as the next gal, and I have Guardians of the Galaxy to thank for that. But this is a song that escaped me.
Do you know I'm a Believer? The one they use in Shrek. That's also written by the Monkees. So there's your little fun fact. So I got the music fact.
Thank you. So the verse we hear, these are the lyrics that I looked into, that plays us out at the end of the episode, is cheer up, sleepy Jean. Oh, what can it mean that to a daydream believer and a homecoming queen? And I just thought that was like a nice little, nudge, nudge, wink, wink at, we're all just in a daydream. All the world's a stage. The men and women just merely players.
Do you think this... I think it would be kind of a cop-out, but do you think this could all just end with Wanda waking up and being like, oh, had a terrible dream, and then she's like, oh, Vision's not here, and that's when it ends? Like, do we think we'll go there?
Listen, I think that the dream, waking up out of the dream at this point is kind of like a cop-out for writers and producers and things like that. I was told specifically in my writing class in high school in college, actually, to not, don't make your your fiction piece end with you waking up out of the dream. It's overdone. It's a cliche.
It's old.
That's
so old school.
And it's not even a plot twist anymore. So no, I don't think that ends with her like that. Although I could see this very well ending with like the real Wanda or Wanda's body, because this might just all be a figment of her imagination, if you will. Wanda's body, just maybe it is out cold, all hooked up to machines. I almost imagine her kind of like the Kree or the Skrull had Captain Marvel in Captain Marvel. I'm doing this because she's like, they have her hanging by her like hands and feet, and she's like upside down. Right. I almost imagine her doing something like that. I totally think that this ends with us finding Wanda in some sort of facility where she's either gone completely insane or she's, controlling shit herself.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would be a cop-out to just have her waking up and being like, what happened last night? And then, like, Hawkeye walks in and he's like, yeah, Vision's dead. He's still dead. You were dreaming. Yeah, like...
Very on brand for Hawkeye.
Right, like, he just strolls in and he's like, yeah, you want some coffee? No. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about Easter eggs. So we talked about the hexagons and the Brady Bunch kind of being like the beehive symbols. We talked about fruit a little bit, but I did think it was a fun homage when she's seeing Geraldine. She tries all the coats and she has the fruit bowl in front of her, and that does go to your fruit theory about like fruit shows a progression of her fetus, but also. I mean, we see in shows like Friends, How I Met Your Mother, New Girl, when you're doing so many seasons, sometimes your actresses become pregnant and they're contractually obliged to be in the show, and so they need to come up pregnant. They need to become
overnight pregnancy.
Yeah, just like it's like a cold, like the common cold. You're like, oh, whoop, there's a baby. No, but I think it's interesting because in sitcoms, when you have so many episodes to film and you really can't take a break off of your shooting schedule, they need to find creative ways to cover up pregnancy. And I thought it was interesting just to see them kind of like pull the curtain back and be like, in a normal show, we would probably have someone hold fruit over their bellies or like wear a big coat. And like, I thought that was a funny way of being like, so that's kind of what goes on in the entertainment pop culture world when an actress gets pregnant, and they want to work and they can work, these are the kind of the little tricks we use. We use oversized coats, we use fruit bowls, we kind of have them sitting a lot of the time. And I just thought it was an interesting way to, kind of pull back the curtain on that.
Yeah, totally. Right off the bat, I found out from MCU Wiki that Westview actually is in New Jersey. So, NJ Pride.
So Geraldine's just hanging out in town. Then.
Yeah.
Just go say hi. We are filming from New Jersey for anyone who did not know. Twins, we already talked about the twins in the comics and Mephisto, but I think it was interesting. We kind of called twins last week, didn't we? Didn't we talk about twins?
Perhaps, because I think I saw in the trailer that they end up to be twins. Gotcha. And anyone who's familiar with the comics knows that Vision and Wanda have twins.
Gotcha. So, see, I don't watch trailers anymore, or at least if I do, I'll watch it once and then be done with it. Just because I don't want to remember a ton of what I'm about to see before I see it. I like to kind of, what I mean. I like to be surprised to a degree.
Listen, I get you. I feel you on that deal. I didn't watch a single trailer for Infinity War, and we all know how much that movie tore me apart. So
right, you were not expecting that. But also Infinity War had shots that were not even in the movie. So I mean, I think Marvel does a good job of not giving a ton away. Yeah. But I like to watch a trailer once just to see like, okay, cool, I'm seeing it, good. I don't need to see this trailer again. But with reserved seating in movie theaters, which hopefully they'll come back nice and healthily and safely soon. But in movie theaters, you get a reserved seat. It doesn't matter how late you are. You can show up a minute before it starts, and you have your seat. You do not need to worry about getting there early and getting your seat. So I think it's been really great to get to skip past trailers and not have to worry about that. Anyway, Dottie's husband, when he's reading the newspaper, I believe his name is Phil, it says, the headline, I'm the words guy, it reads, 2 fire hydrants added on Main Street. But when he folds the paper, it folds and it says, 2 fire hydra. So there's the Hydra reference again. Again, might just be a little like, oh, here's a little Hydra we can throw in there, or it means something. But
Or it
otherwise,
means that Hydra's behind all of this and they're yelling at us the whole time and we're just dismissing it. We're like, no, it's Wanda and she could be very much kidnapped by Hydra right now.
she could be. Do you speaking of words guy, numbers girl, do you have I told you, I was like, there are numbers on the license plate of the doctor's car. Does that mean anything?
Jill, I wrote this down before you even contact me. Don't worry. You will not have to point out numbers to me. I will always have the numbers and the fun facts.
Great.
And I looked into the license plate. Numbers read 6J9P8W. And I looked into these and I couldn't find jack shit. I don't think they mean anything at all.
I was so excited to hear what it was.
I went all online. I Googled all different kinds of ways. I didn't see in all my research of other people pointing out Easter eggs. Nobody else talked about the license plate. So I was like, great, I'm not the only one. I don't think these numbers mean anything. I'm going to go on record and say that they mean nothing.
Okay, so no numbers for this episode, right?
No
other numbers? Ah, man. So it's all in the writing. So the last little bit, we've talked about Daydream Believer. We've talked about...
Did you see the paint can?
That's the next thing I was going to talk about. I was looking for it on my notes. You read my mind. Maybe you're in charge of my simulation. Who knows? Maybe we're both in a simulation. We don't know.
I don't want to be in charge of anyone's simulation. I'm going to also go on record and say that.
I was going to say, the last 4 years, you haven't done such a good job. Anyway, we're not going to make this political unless we're talking about Hydra and the Marvel universe, or multiple universes, if you will. The paint can says Simser. That was the show's storyboard artist, Jeremy Simser, or Simser, however you want to say it. Nothing really much to that, except it was an homage to the storyboard artist, which we know storyboards are really important in really setting up the foundation and blueprint of a show or movie, especially a show, because you have so many episodes and you want to make sure everything is on the right track. So
I have a Easter egg that I found. I don't know if you saw that in scene 3 when we're in the kitchen with Wanda. There is a bottle in the background behind her that says Koi on it. Some people just thought that this was, this was also a product that we saw in the grocery aisle scene during the opening credits of the first episode. I looked into the name Koi to see if there were any Kois into the Marvel universe, and I came across, you will not believe this, twin Kois. Their names are, they're Vietnamese, so I'm so sorry if I butcher the pronunciation of their names, although I did Google how to pronounce them before this because I didn't want to sound ignorant, but I believe it is Tran Koi and Xian Koi. And they basically are these twins from Vietnam who possess essentially the same powers as Wanda. They have they can mentally control others and possess others. And I just don't know if this is just a tease at the whole twins motif happening in the episode. The fact that Wanda was having twins and that she talked about the fact that she was a twin, or, we'll see something from these twins later on. But I did want to address that because I was proud of that finding.
That's very interesting. Yeah, it could be as simple as the tiniest little detail that doesn't really mean a ton, but it just kind of helps. It helps just make it richer,
Yeah.
At first glance, this whole episode, the whole beginning, until we got to the Geraldine and Agnes stuff, I was just very much kind of underwhelmed, I guess, just because I was like, all right, so they're pregnant, they're making funny gags, she's going through pregnancy really quick, and then she has a baby. There wasn't really a lot of rich substance with that, and that's where I'm kind of a little, I love the different sitcom exploration, but I do wish they spent a little less time in the sitcom world and a little more time on the other stuff that's happening, which I'm sure they will. But this was the first episode where I really kind of started to feel a little bit of the length of the sitcomness. I was kind of like, all right, where are we going from here? All right, what's next? But I do think this was a pretty effective, way of looking at the episode, where it kind of enriches the whole story experience, knowing all these little details, because then you can find the little hints and tricks and here's where it's headed. And I think it makes the the second watch, if you watch it again, a lot more enjoyable. So if you watched it once, for listeners, if you watched it once, now that you have all these little Easter eggs brewing, you can go on your little Easter egg hunt and rewatch the episode, and I think it'll be a little bit more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to hear a fun fact about Billy?
Sure, I would love to.
So
Billy the kid?
Yeah, Billy the
twin.
The Wiccan.
Yes.
What other Billy is there?
No, I was just, like Billy the Kid. I was making a reference to Billy the Kid. Like Billy, and he's Wanda's kid. That's my dad joke of the day. If I had a bell, I'll get a bell for next time to ding whenever a dad joke.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
Go ahead.
So Billy, through my research about him, there was a lot on Billy and not a lot on Tommy. I would just like to say in my little book back here, I don't know why that is. I guess Billy's is more interesting.
I mean, is this a Cain and Abel type thing where like Tommy's gonna die and Billy's gonna live? I mean, do we know?
Maybe I don't know. But
I hope not.
Wiccan is in the comics is gay. He has a relationship with a super mutant named Hulkling, who is Hulkling.
Okay.
Not Hulk.
Yeah, but is it like any relation to Hulk or no?
I think he has the same powers as Hulk. He has super strength, and it said that he can transfigure himself. That's the Harry Potter term for it. But okay. I don't know what the Muggle term for it is.
We're crossing universes here.
That's so embarrassing. But in my mind, I read his special powers and abilities, and I was like, oh, so he's like Beast Boy, not Beast Boys.
The Beastie Boys.
Not the Beastie Boys.
I think this might be we're nearing the end of the show here.
This is and it's late at night. I think we're getting to my last brain cell.
Yeah, you're listening to this. You're probably listening to this at a very nice time of the day, but we are recording this at a very late time in the night. So, but Geraldine was in the middle. She was in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night. So why can't we be?
Yeah, exactly.
So he's gay. That's great.
Yeah. So he's a gay character. So hopefully, if we see Billy and Tommy progress in the MCU, perhaps we'll get an openly gay character who's not just one of the Russo brothers in Endgame.
Right. So we haven't had any openly gay characters. I think there's rumors that Valkyrie might be bisexual or gay.
I think there's rumors about her. There's also rumors about Captain Marvel.
Okay.
But none that have just been outwardly like, I'm a homosexual. I don't know.
except for the Russo brothers' little cameo in the support group with Captain America, because that's representation right there. So that wraps it for WandaVision episode 3. We had lots of great things to talk about. I think this is going to be the most we dive into speculation, because I think as the episodes go on, we are going to get a lot more pieces to this puzzle. A lot more breadcrumbs are going to start turning into like slices of bread, and then we'll finally have the whole loaf to indulge and devour at the end of this. But this was a lot of fun. We dived into it. We dove into it.
Either way, it works for me.
Either way, it works.
It's late at night.
So Kelsey, where can they find you?
You can find me at Kelsey A. Kilpatrick on Instagram, and you can find me on YouTube, Koz Productions, KOZ Productions, like and subscribe and all that jazz.
And I did watch your Marvel Spider-Man video. Obviously, we don't have time to talk about it now, but we could maybe put it on the back burner. But everyone go check that out. I'll put it again. I do have the ability to put your video up in the top right corner. If you're watching it on YouTube, it's up there in the top right corner right now. So please go and check out that video. It's a lot of fun. Talking about it's one of those directions. But yeah, you can watch Kelsey talk about whether or not she likes Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, or Tom Holland better than the others. And I think that's going to be a fun conversation to have, hopefully, if we get more information on this Christmas-themed Spider-Man 3 that we're going to get, Home for the Holidays is what I'm going to call it from now on until we got something better. And you can find her on TikTok, right, Kelsey? Because you had a TikTok blow up that was about the MCU.
Yes, you can find me on TikTok. That's just at Koz_13.
There we go. So we'll go help Kelsey become more and more viral with her hot MCU takes. I'm also on TikTok. I can't remember exactly what my handle is. I think it's at Dylan Randazzo 417. That's my birthday, April 17th. 417, I think, is my my TikTok name. But if not, just search Dylan Randazzo. You'll find me. I do 1 minute movie reviews, I do cooking videos, and I do singing videos. It's a very, very different trio of topics and themes. But I can't just put myself in one.
We love a triple threat.
Right, we can't just pigeonhole ourselves into one specific area. We have to be multifaceted. We have to do multiple things. And you can also find me at Dylan_Randazzo on Twitter. You can find me here if you're watching on YouTube at the Dill Pickle Movie Network, or you can listen to this podcast anywhere you can find podcasts. I apologize if you were trying to find the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Apple has a longer rollout date for podcasts, so you may have to wait a little longer to hear the Apple episodes. But on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and so many other places where you can find podcasts, you will be able to hear this podcast on Monday, and you will be able to hear our other episodes, our episode last week, and all our episodes to come. And we appreciate all of you guys for listening. We did get as Kelsey said, a 100% male listening audience in Spotify. So if you have any friends, especially female friends who want to come and listen to us talk some Marvel, send it to them.
Come on, girl.
Direct them here.
I know I'm not the only one out here.
I know. We know there are plenty of people out there who want to talk Marvel. If you can't get enough of Marvel, come to us. Come share this podcast to everyone. And please, if you can, give us a review or like it or download it. Whatever you do with podcasts, it's greatly appreciated. Every little click goes a long way, even here on YouTube as well. Like, subscribe, do all that jazz. We'll be back here next Monday to recap, what is it, Kelsey? Episode 4?
Episode 4.
And we don't know the title yet.
And we don't know the title yet.
and there will be a title, apparently. So we will be back to recap, I guess, what would be, if they stick with the sitcom thing, the 80s episode, which I can't wait for. I think that's where we get that shot of Catherine Hahn in her 80s getup. So I'm very excited. So we will be back on Monday to talk to you, and we will each have a Marvel headline. We will start doing that. We will start bringing a headline at the beginning. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.